We should be paid more, and hopefully that's the case moving forward as the league continues to grow. I think that's something that's probably the most important thing that we're in the room advocating about.
Something shocking just unfolded in the world of women's basketball, and it has the entire league reeling. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexi Hull didn't just show up for another press conference. They detonated a truth bomb that's now echoing through every WNBA locker room. Fans thought they were tuning in for the usual post-game analysis or some lighthearted banter. Instead, they witnessed a live television earthquake. The energy in the room shifted the moment the three players stepped up to the mic. This wasn't about stats. This wasn't a routine recap. This was a movement, one that could permanently rewrite the future of the WNBA. Gone were the rehearsed talking points and scripted gratitude. What unfolded was raw, unfiltered, and packed with emotion. Clark's voice carried the weight of millions watching. Cunningham's tone was steady and hardened by years of sacrifice. And Hull, young but unshakably poised, looked like someone ready to lead an army. This wasn't a press conference. This was a battle cry. As their words rang out, jaws dropped across the country. What began as a routine media appearance transformed into a public declaration of war against the status quo. The trio unveiled a game-changing alliance, shattering expectations and igniting a firestorm of speculation. "We deserve better," they said. And with that, a hush fell over every front office executive watching. These weren't demands from fringe players. These were three of the most influential names in the league standing in solidarity, and it wasn't just what they said, it was how they said it. You could see the conviction in their eyes, the tension in their shoulders, the unmistakable determination in their voices. This wasn't a plea. It was an ultimatum. The WNBA can evolve, or it can risk losing its future to a player-led revolution. That revolution didn't begin with a dramatic tweet or a leaked memo. It started in the most unlikely place, behind closed doors at the Indiana Fever's training facility. Sources now confirm it wasn't a casual hangout or a branding session. It was a covert strategy meeting, planned and executed in total secrecy. And now, the results of that meeting are crashing into public view with consequences the league might not be ready for, because once Clark, Cunningham, and Hull made their alliance public, the game changed, permanently. While the WNBA basks in a wave of new fans, record-breaking ratings, and viral highlights, something more serious is bubbling beneath the surface. Everyone's focused on the optics, but inside locker rooms, players are whispering the same thing. Not enough has changed. It's a league on the rise, yes. But for many players, the foundation still feels cracked. The trio didn't come together to ride the wave of headlines. They came to challenge the reality behind them. There's more attention. There's more money in the ecosystem. But where is it going? Not into players' pockets, not into long-term support structures. For too long, WNBA athletes have seen their value celebrated, but not truly compensated. That's what makes this alliance different. Clark, with her unprecedented fame, is the spark, bringing visibility and influence. Cunningham carries the scars and stories of a veteran who's lived through the grind and felt every ounce of its weight. Hull brings the fearless curiosity and hunger of someone just stepping into the storm. Together, they represent every phase of a player's journey, from rookie dreams to veteran battles, and they're all saying the same thing. Enough is enough. They're not just calling for change. They're building it. These meetings, these statements, they're not publicity stunts. They're the early blueprints for a league that works for its players, a league where athletes don't have to choose between their health and their paycheck, a league where retiring doesn't mean starting from scratch, a league where success isn't just about viewership, but about sustainability for the women who make it happen. And that vision is catching fire fast, because behind every highlight reel and sold-out crowd is a player doing silent math in their head, figuring out how to stretch a paycheck until next season. For too long, WNBA players have been expected to smile through the struggle, to accept applause on game night and quietly push through exhaustion the next morning. Now that silence is breaking, and the league will never be the same. The rest of the week has only deepened the impact of what Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexi Hull ignited. There's an invisible cost to success in this league, one that doesn't show up on highlight reels or endorsement deals. And these three are done pretending it's normal. These meetings, they aren't just brainstorms or vague calls for reform. They're battle plans, forged through years of sacrifice, heartbreak, and sleepless nights. Imagine dedicating your entire life to a sport, only to realize that even stardom doesn't guarantee stability. Top-tier WNBA players are still facing financial uncertainty, with some earning less in an entire year than their male counterparts make in a single game. That's not a gap, it's an insult. These women are expected to be role models, athletes, entertainers, and ambassadors for the game. And yet they're juggling off-season contracts overseas, side gigs, and part-time jobs just to make ends meet. Finally, someone is saying out loud what so many have whispered behind closed doors: this isn't sustainable. What Clark and her allies are demanding goes far beyond just bigger paychecks. This is about quality of life. What happens when a player tears her ACL and can't get proper long-term care? What happens to rookies cut mid-season with no plan, no savings, and no support system? Right now, the league has no answers. Only excuses, and excuses don't pay rent, don't heal injuries, don't build futures. This movement is asking for more than Band-Aid solutions. It's calling for a blueprint, a league where careers aren't a countdown to burnout, a league where legends don't vanish into silence the moment they hang up their jerseys, not because they lacked greatness, but because the system lacked the infrastructure to honor and support them. Clark, Cunningham, and Hull want to change that. They're calling for year-round medical coverage that doesn't end with the final buzzer. They're demanding access to mental health resources, mentorship programs, and post-retirement career planning. Because being a professional athlete shouldn't mean choosing between your dream and your future. For Cunningham, this isn't theory. It's personal. She's been through the grind, overseas seasons, cramped hotel rooms, wondering if the sacrifices would ever pay off. Her experience is the spine of this movement, a living reminder that every buzzer beater is backed by pain, resilience, and a fight most fans never see. Lexi Hull is earlier in her career, but she's already felt the tremors beneath her feet. She came from a top-tier college program that prioritized its athletes. Stepping into the WNBA felt like leaving solid ground and walking straight into a storm. She's seen teammates crack, not just from the physical strain, but from the emotional pressure of surviving in a league that hasn't been built to sustain them. Her voice may be softer, but the impact of her words is undeniable. And Clark, she could have stayed quiet. She could have stuck to the spotlight, collected endorsements, and let others speak out. But instead, she stepped into the fire. She used her massive platform not to elevate herself, but to amplify others. That choice turned her from a star into a symbol of a generation that refuses to stay silent. The league may have underestimated them. It may have believed that PR campaigns and social media buzz could patch over deeper wounds, but that illusion is gone. These athletes aren't going through the league's carefully managed channels anymore. They're speaking directly to the fans, and fans are listening. Supporters don't just want to cheer. They want to know the players they love aren't suffering in silence. They're tired of vague promises and hollow slogans. They want real answers, real change, and they're not alone. Sponsors are watching too, and the pressure is building. The NBA's rise has been fueled by corporate partnerships, but companies don't want to be seen propping up a system that devalues women. Clark's movement has forced them to take a side. Are they here for genuine equity or just the marketing? Benefits of proximity to it? The WNBA is standing at a crossroads. It can evolve with the momentum of its stars, or it can dig in and risk alienating the very people who put it back on the map. There's no middle ground anymore. The only question left is whether the league will lead the change or be dragged into it. Clark, Cunningham, and Hull aren't asking for something radical. They're asking for what most professionals already expect: fair pay, health benefits, basic protections, and a voice in decisions that directly affect their lives. That this is still up for debate in 2025 is exactly why the movement matters. The emotional toll is real. These women are putting their reputations on the line. They're risking backlash from coaches, league officials, and even fans who want sports to be simple, but they're willing to take that risk. Because if not them, then who? If not now, then when? There's a weariness in their eyes, but also a fire. A fire born from waiting, watching, hoping, and finally deciding to act. You see it when Clark speaks with defiance. You hear it when Cunningham recounts the grind. You feel it when Hull describes what a better future could look like. This isn't a whim. This is a war. And every war comes at a cost. They know that. They're prepared for it. Because history doesn't remember the ones who stayed silent. It remembers those who stood up. And now, others are following. What began with 3 voices is growing. Whispers have become conversations. Conversations are becoming strategy. And behind the scenes, something massive is building. Momentum that no league statement can contain. Fans are rallying, not just with jerseys and cheers, but with action. They're tweeting, posting, organizing, and they're not asking for change anymore. They're demanding it. Players who once kept their frustrations private are starting to speak out. They're no longer content with silence, no longer willing to endure and wait for change that may never come. The voices of Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexi Hull have done more than spark a conversation. They've lit a fire that's spreading throughout the league. Fans aren't just watching anymore. They're asking questions. They're demanding answers. And in doing so, they're giving this movement the oxygen it needs to keep burning. This isn't just a moment. It's a reckoning. What comes next is the question on everyone's mind. Will the league respond with empathy or arrogance? Will it adapt, or will it collapse under the weight of its own inaction? Time will tell. But one thing is already certain. The players aren't backing down. If they succeed, if they win this battle, they won't just be changing their own careers. They'll be reshaping the future of women's basketball. This is legacy being built in real time. For every college rookie watching, every child in the stands, every former player who was once told to sit down and be grateful, this moment is for them. Because when 3 women step into a room and come out with a vision bold enough to shake an entire league, that's not just news, that's history. What makes this moment even more powerful is how it crosses every line the league once believed would keep players divided. Different teams, ages, and roles. None of that matters anymore. These women are building bridges where there used to be silence, and silence has always been the WNBA's most dangerous opponent. This uprising didn't happen in a vacuum. It arrives during a crucial stretch of negotiations, TV rights, league expansion, and a pivotal collective bargaining agreement. In the past, players may have waited quietly, hoping leadership would act in good faith. Not anymore. Not with Clark, Cunningham, and Hull steering the conversation. Clark's name alone now carries weight beyond the court. She's a walking economy, boost for every city she visits. Yet she's subjected to the same outdated salary cap as everyone else. That's the message. If someone with her impact can still be undervalued, no one is safe. Cunningham has lived the mental and physical toll of piecing together a living overseas, just to afford another shot at the WNBA. Hull has walked into a league that still hasn't figured out how to care for its future. This isn't just a call for better pay. It's a demand for dignity, respect, and a league that doesn't just profit from its stars but protects them. Clark could have stayed silent. Cunningham could have focused on her own future. Hull could have waited her turn. But they didn't. They chose to stand together and demand change, not tomorrow, but right now, and their timing couldn't be sharper. The WNBA isn't just growing, it's exploding. Ratings are up, sponsors are circling, cities are clamoring for expansion teams. The league is finally poised to become a global powerhouse. But if it's built on the backs of underpaid, overworked players, it won't last. They're not asking for luxury. They're asking for equity, a fair piece of what they help create. The WNBA has long marketed itself as a sisterhood. But sisterhood isn't about smiling through the pain. It's about fighting together. And for the first time in a long time, that fight is loud. Now the question becomes, how far does this go? Could this alliance grow into a league-wide uprising? Could games be delayed, endorsements pulled, CBA negotiations upended? The league's leadership should be paying attention, because if this momentum keeps building, the next move might not be a press release. It might be a strike. This has all the signs of something historic. Comparisons to the NBA lockouts, to the U.S. women's national soccer team's equal pay battle, these aren't exaggerations. History has proven that unity changes everything. And that's what this is. A united front. Clark's charisma, Cunningham's grit, Hull's resolve. This isn't symbolic. It's strategic. Clark isn't just playing in the league, she's rewriting it. Cunningham isn't just surviving the system. She's confronting it. And Hull isn't waiting for someone to hand her a future. She's helping build one. They've taken different paths, but now they're standing shoulder to shoulder, walking into the storm, and refusing to turn back. Fans might have come for the basketball, but what they're witnessing is something much bigger. A movement unfolding, powered by courage and clarity. And it's not about just 3 players anymore. It's about every teammate, every rookie, every veteran who has spent years too exhausted or afraid to speak up. Their voices now have a megaphone, and that megaphone is live. The world beyond the league is watching too. International teams. In Europe and Asia, leagues that already offer higher pay and more stable infrastructure have long been a draw for WNBA players. And now, with this spotlight on domestic shortcomings, the WNBA risks losing more than just a few games. It risks losing its stars. That's not a threat, that's a fact. And with Clark leading the charge, it's a fact that lands like a warning siren. As this movement grows, fans aren't just cheering, they're joining. Social media is buzzing, hashtags are climbing, corporate sponsors are tiptoeing closer to the front lines. Everyone wants to be on the right side of history. But history only happens when someone dares to push the line, and that's exactly what's happening now. For all the celebration surrounding the league's growth, the reality remains harsh. Players still endure brutal travel schedules, insufficient pay, and inconsistent support. This movement isn't asking for perfection, it's asking for fairness, for the chance to play without being punished for chasing their dreams. Clark, Cunningham, and Hull aren't trying to burn the league down. They're trying to save it before it collapses. They're not doing this out of ego. They're doing it for survival, for dignity, for the next generation of girls who deserve to dream of the WNBA without also having to dream of playing overseas just to stay afloat. The stakes aren't just high. They're historic. Clark has already shown that women's sports can drive serious revenue. Now, she's asking where that money is going. Cunningham is asking why, after all this progress, players still need second jobs. Hull is asking what happens if this league doesn't evolve. These aren't surface-level questions. They're revolutionary. This could be the moment the WNBA has been building toward all along, the breaking point that becomes a breakthrough. A rallying cry turned movement, a declaration that these athletes are more than just players. They are leaders, builders, revolutionaries, and they're done being ignored. They've stepped into the spotlight not for applause, but for justice, and they're not finished. They're only just getting started. The league better be ready, because Clark, Cunningham, and Hull aren't just changing the game. They're changing the rules, and the ripples they've created are already turning into waves. Speak up publicly. The group chats are alive. Union meetings are full. Behind closed doors, agents and legal teams are being looped in. This is no longer just a conversation. It's a coordinated effort to take control of the league's future. You can feel the tension rising. League executives are scrambling. Emergency meetings are being called. Internal memos are flying, but they're already behind. Because this alliance wasn't spontaneous, it was built in secret, over months of planning. While the league was busy turning Caitlin Clark's highlights into marketing gold, she was strategizing how to turn that spotlight into leverage. And that leverage is powerful. Clark's social reach can bend narratives. A single tweet from her can shift public opinion overnight. One interview from Cunningham can put the league on the defensive. One post from Hull can go viral in seconds. This is no longer just about basketball. This is an information war, and the players hold the high ground. They flipped the script. For decades, the league controlled the money, the messaging, the very definition of what it meant to be a professional woman in sports. But now, the players are taking back the story. And the most unsettling part for the league, they're doing it together. United, focused, relentless. This isn't a stunt. It's a signal. The era of isolated player protests is over. Clark brings the audience. Cunningham brings the experience. Hull brings the clarity. Together, they bring something the league's never faced before, a credible challenge to its unchecked authority. And they're not alone. The wave is growing. Behind the scenes, more players are joining. All-stars, bench players, even retired legends. Some are offering quiet support, others are preparing to speak out. What began with 3 voices is fast becoming a chorus. The WNBA has awakened a generation of players who are done asking for permission. They're taking what's theirs. As their numbers grow, so does the pressure. The locker rooms are becoming strategy hubs. Press conferences are turning into rally cries. Every post-game mic is a weapon. The league thought it could control the optics. But now, the players are holding the lens. This isn't the beginning of a revolution. It's already in motion. Players are questioning everything. Why are profits rising while salaries remain stagnant? Why are overseas clubs offering better infrastructure than the self-proclaimed pinnacle of women's basketball? Why are players' concerns being filtered through PR departments instead of turned into policy? Fans are asking the same questions. They're no longer satisfied with vague promises and polished campaigns. They're showing up not just in arenas but online, in comment sections on social media, tagging sponsors, demanding answers, refusing to look away. The league's greatest fear is now real. The people filling seats and buying merch are siding with the players. And every show of solidarity shifts the balance further. This isn't just collective bargaining. It's a collective awakening. Players are realizing their true value, not just in the game but in the marketplace, in the media, and in culture at large. They're not just athletes. They're brands, advocates, investors in a league that hasn't invested equally in them. The pressure is now undeniable. The next few weeks could define the league's future. Progress is still possible.